Good morning, my name is Derek. I'm an athlete here at CrossFit Glen Burnie. Bob is behind the camera. Today we're going to talk about the bench press and how to increase your bench press and why it's important. So for CrossFit, the bench press is very underutilized and underappreciated. Most people think of it as kind of a bro workout that you do in the commercial gym or that powerlifters do. So the bench press has a tremendous carryover to other things that are really important in CrossFit. It builds a lot of strength in your chest, shoulders, and triceps, which will help you out with your overhead press and your handstand push-ups, your regular push-ups, and your dips. A lot of times those are big weaknesses for people as they only work those three things, so they don't develop a whole lot of areas of strength in their frontal plane. So we're going to talk about the 5 things you can do right now that'll help increase your bench press weight and efficiency. First thing we're going to talk about is your head position. So once we get set down on the bench, you'll see a lot of people will set up with their head behind the barbell. Then when they go to bench press, if they get a heavy weight or they get tired, they'll flare back and hit the rack. So what we want to do is make sure the bar is in a full forward position on the J-hooks, and then we're going to set up with our eyes directly underneath the barbell. That way the path of the bar is going to be clear from the hooks the entire range of motion. And the second thing we're going to talk about with the head is that you want to follow the bar with your eyes the entire time, so you make sure that it goes to the same spot on your chest every rep. So if you get that little bit of variance here and there, you're going to start putting different ranges of motion on your shoulders, sometimes not really where you want them to go. Second thing we're going to talk about is your shoulders. So what we're going to do for the bench press is we're going to kind of retract our shoulder blades. Think about having a lacrosse ball between your shoulder blades and you're trying to squeeze it and hold it there. The purpose of this is to kind of eliminate the play in your shoulder girdle and your scapula and just keep it locked into place, and it kind of eliminates all that shearing tension on your shoulder joints. So what you're going to do, you're going to lay down flat, then you're going to pull your shoulder blades back and down, and then you're going to lift the bar up. So if you notice, when I bench press with retracted shoulders, I have no movement in my scapula. Whereas if I flatten out my back, my shoulders like to come forward and I get that impingement in that front delt. The third thing that we're going to talk about is your hand and elbow relationship. So this is largely dependent of what you want to do. If you're trying to work your chest a little bit more, you're going to have a little wider hands. If you're trying to work your triceps and shoulders a little bit more, you're going to get a little closer hand. So you want your elbow to follow your hands to the point where your forearm is straight up and down. So if Bob comes to the side here, when I bench, if I go a little bit closer, you notice my elbows stay tucked in nice and close, and I don't really have too much of a flare. But if I go wider, I keep them tucked in at the bottom, and then I don't want to lock out here because the bar is forward and I'm using my shoulders to hold it. So I want to flare my elbows back to keep my forearms straight up and down. That's going to give you the best leverage that you can get. So your forearms will be straight up and down, you're going to have optimal pressing power. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about is your foot position. Most of the time when you see somebody who's relatively new to the bench press, the fault is going to be at the feet. My favorite is the 1 foot up. So you'll see them benching and they'll get stuck at a heavy weight and this guy will go up and they'll start turning sideways. Well, they turn sideways because you basically took a chair and kicked one of the feet out of it. So you're going to have those feet locked down, heels driven into the ground, and you're going to push backwards, not up. So you're going to drive your shoulders into that bench. That's called leg drive. So you're going to utilize your quadriceps and your hamstrings and drive your shoulders down into that bench. Then the last thing that we're going to talk about is how to isolate your pecs versus your triceps. So if you're somebody like me who the weak part of your bench press is the bottom, you're going to want to pause a lot of your reps on the bench press instead of just doing a touch and go style, you're going to want to take that momentum out of it and do at least a 1 or 2 second pause. So when you come down, instead of doing a touch and go for speed, you're going to pause in your chest like that. That makes you use your pecs to overload that weight now that you've taken the momentum out of it. For your triceps, you're going to do a little bit of a closer grip, but you don't really want to go any closer than hands just outside your chest. And what that's going to do is it's going to take some of that shoulder range of motion out and use primarily the back of your arm and the front of your shoulder. A lot of CrossFitters, when they do bench press, like to do kind of a midway between, so about thumb grip off of the knurling. And that's kind of a little bit wider than what your shoulder press grip would be. And that'll transfer over a little bit more to your overhead pressing, whereas the close grip stuff will transfer over to dips a little bit more. But you should not neglect the wide grip, as it'll help prevent injury, and just it'll make you overall stronger on the tricep stuff. So those are your 5 tips to go ahead and increase your bench press for CrossFit.